python in his pants.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Baby python, amateur.
You wouldn't even, if a python came within 40 feet of you, you'd have to be hospitalized. What are you talking about?
I will carry an anaconda in my pants from here to Maryland, if you would like.
Let's get a bet started, a nationwide bet.
Go fund me. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Mike Mitchell is upset. Tennessee finally gets a coach, and Floyd Mayweather, your boy,
not my boy,
says he carried Conor McGregor. But we begin today with a shakeup at the top of the woeful Cleveland Browns. The Browns have fired their GM, Sashi Brown, who had been in that job the last 2 years. During that time, the Browns passed on Carson Wentz and Deshaun Watson and released Josh McCown. The Browns are 0-12 this year. They were 1-15 last year, and inexplicably, their coach, Hugh Jackson, will be back next year. Wilbon, did the Cleveland Browns just become more or less dysfunctional?
I don't think either one. They just continued on the path they've been on. And Sashi Brown, who, let me admit right now, I like a lot, and I was rooting for. I just think they didn't get back on the track that he wanted them to get back on. But they've been off track for so long.
Yeah.
And by the way, let me spin this forward a little bit. At least if you're going to have a record that they had, and you just outlined it, it's just awful.
Terrible.
Sashi Brown didn't say it happened, or I'm sorry, it happened. He said today that record is, quote, not going to cut it. But he also said the turnaround is coming, and he will be the first one to applaud if and when the Cleveland Browns turn around.
Well,
and so my point is, Tony, this franchise has been going in the wrong direction for a long time.
They're terrible.
And Sashi Brown couldn't get it turned.
They're terrible. They're a clown show. Since they have been back in Cleveland in 1999, so that's 1918 season, something like that.
Yeah.
They are now working on their 9th GM, and they have their 9th coach, and I really don't know how long their coach is going to survive. And I think this starts at the top. I'm going to go up to ownership. I'm going to go up to Jimmy Haslam because he took over in 2012. Since then, they're 19-66. 19-66. Is that something I could interest you in? And they wasted a number one pick, on Johnny Manziel.
But if you mention picks, let's go back to picks for a second. The one thing that Sashi Brown did, which could lead to the process working, is that he stockpiled draft picks, and Cleveland has a ton of them this year. Now, he won't get to make them, but somebody else is going to benefit if they do this correctly from the picks he acquired.
They're obviously in the GM business right now. The Giants are in the GM business right now. Do you think that it's fair to bring in a GM and say you have to keep this coach? Do you think that that's fair?
Who says they're saying that?
Well, they're saying that their coach will be their coach next year.
That doesn't mean anything. We don't know that.
Do you know they have a guy, a baseball guy, I think his name is Fred Podesta, Paul D. Podesta. Do you know what his title is? It's Chief Strategy Officer.
Yeah.
What is their strategy? What does it look like their strategy is? Pass on good quarterbacks and be terrible?
Win 2.
What? Win 2 over 2 years.
Ernie used to say, let's play 2, let's win 2. It's been a while.
That's your team. Go ahead.
Now it's my team. Tony, we've got a major philosophical difference of opinion between two defensive players in the NFL that is fascinating. Let's listen first to Pittsburgh's Mike Mitchell.
At the end of the day, this is football. If you want to see flag football, then let's take our pads off. That would make it easier for me because now I don't got to wear heavy But give us flags for me to pull off because that way I know what we're playing. You know, I signed up to play full-speed contact football, and we're not doing that. I feel like I got to ask a guy, hey, are you ready for me to hit you right now before I hit you?
On the other side of the aisle is former Giant defensive lineman O.C. Umenyiora, who tweeted, quote, are players really this dumb? Hate to say it, but come on. Former players have died and are dying horrible deaths because of head trauma. And you're complaining because the league is taking steps to at least try to reduce it, make it flag football? Ridiculous, close quote. Tony, which argument carries more weight with you?
I'm going to do what you do on the show a lot. I'm going to push. Because I know that O.C. Umenyiora is right. And I know that football players are killing themselves. I mean, I get that. On the other hand, at my age, the football I grew up with is the football that Mitchell is talking about. It's the football that was thrilling to me.
Yeah.
And it was based on hitting.
Yeah.
So I cannot defend it, but the truth is that's what I want to see. If in succeeding generations they play flag football or they take their helmets off or whatever they do and it becomes popular, you know, via con Dios. But for me, that's football.
See, this is the massive dilemma for the sport of football and particularly the NFL today. It is not Jerry Jones versus Roger Goodell, even though we've diverted our attention, sadly, to that. This is the dilemma. When Mike Mitchell says, I found myself, before O.C. Umenura's tweet, I found myself going, yeah, I get that. Because the dumbest sentence in sports is 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct because he hit a defenseless player. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in football. Tony,
CTE
you may not hit a guy in the
everything.
head. You may not hit a guy in the head. That's still a penalty. And I understand what Mike Mitchell's saying, and more than one thing can be true. Now, after listening to Umenura's tweet,
he's right.
I go, you can't argue with this anymore.
You can't.
And this is the problem for football. We can talk about people not standing for the anthem and all the things that folks might object to. Goodell and the owners versus the players and blah, blah, blah. Trying to figure out what football is in the latter half of the 21st century is the huge challenge confronting this sport.
Can I quote the great Brent Musburger?
What do you say?
Who on Tuesday night is going to be inducted into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame in New York City.
Great.
This is a direct quote. A guy who basically invented the pregame show.
Yeah,
right?
he
Brent?
did.
Okay. And Northwestern stuff. Yo, snowflakes, the violent world of Sam Huff sold the NFL to the masses. The Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders gave us a little sex with our violence. Deal with it. And that, I find, for people
That's
our
Mike Mitchell.
age.
That's what Mike Mitchell's saying.
For people our age.
That's how we identify it. It is. It's also over, isn't it?
It's over. Tennessee has successfully wooed Jeremy Pruitt away from Nick Saban and Alabama, where Pruitt was the defensive coordinator. Pruitt was also the defensive coordinator on Florida State's recent national championship team. Plus, Pruitt is reputed to be a great recruiter. Wilbon, does the reported quality of this hire mitigate the mess of its process?
No. And I don't care that one guy had this process and another guy who was a Tennessee champion came in and had that process. It doesn't matter. It's all one process to people other than Vol fans, Vol Nation. And no, it's a mess until somebody steps out there and tries to win. Now, Pruitt has what I would say is a glittering resume.
Yeah.
And by the way, yeah. I'm adding that from the bias of don't necessarily go out and get a retread. You don't have to get a guy who's already a star. Get a guy who can coach. And he cut his teeth in some pretty good places, and particularly under Nick Saban. Yeah. So what is there that you would have this guy have other than head coaching experience that he doesn't have? Glittering resume.
If you are a Tennessee guy right now, all you've got is the possibility that this guy lives up to the advanced billing.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to wait 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
You have to wait 2 to 3 years.
Well, maybe 1 year if he turns it around right away.
And in the meantime, you have to put a paper bag on your head.
You're going to be in
because you've been bozos.
Yeah.
You have been bozos in the way that you selected this. It's good that you mentioned Saban because at the moment in the SEC, and most of them are in the other side. They're in the East, not the West. But at the moment in the SEC with this guy, you have head coaches at Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, and Texas A&M, all of whom prepped under Nick Saban. So you are trying to hire people. You're trying to hire people who were with Nick Saban. Now, I got a Paul Feinbaum stat here, which is tremendous.
Let's hear it.
The pups of Nick Saban, head-to-head against Nick Saban, are 0-11, and the average margin of score is 43-11. So best of luck.
You know what this is exactly like? When people would hire away Don Shula's assistants and they could never beat him, and Lombardi's assistants and they could never beat him, and more importantly now, the Hoodie's assistants, Bill Belichick. They raid Bill Belichick's staff, and you should try to do that, but it doesn't always work.
I know, but it's the right call.
Work. It's the right call at the time.
It's totally the right call. Totally.
Floyd Mayweather,
stop it.
Goes against Conor McGregor, goes after him, Tony, and says he propped him up for a few rounds so people could get their money's worth before taking him out in the 10th. In a video released by Fight Hype, Mayweather says, quote, "You know I carried McGregor. You know I made it look good for y'all," close quote. Tony, do you see this as a confession, a promotion, or both?
You know what I see it as? A giant steaming cup of who cares. Because I don't think they're going to fight again, do you? Mayweather's 40 years old.
in it?
Okay, but Oscar De La Hoya wants to get in this action now, and Mayweather
really took him out.
He ripped him.
He took him out.
So, I mean, I just see this as, well, what difference? People saw the fight. Many liked the fight. I don't know if there's any appetite to do this thing again. I don't.
Even if not, you know how much I just have distaste for Mayweather and everything he's about historically. But as you know, I rooted for Mayweather to knock Conor McGregor's head off.
Because Conor McGregor fights with his feet.
And so I just thought that Mayweather, again, was right on point. McGregor's out there talking it up so he can build up another fight and make some more money because
he's the draw.
McGregor doesn't have as much money as Mayweather does.
But he's the draw now.
He's the draw to an extent.
The draw now.
But Tony, so he's telling the truth. Mayweather is
here.
He propped him up. He kept him moving along and standing upright for a while until he got tired of him. And Mayweather is not even a knockout artist. He's not an offensive fighter.
Here is my takeaway.
He's Bernard Hopkins in a different weight class.
My takeaway from all of this is that the pendulum has shifted.
To what?
Legitimate fighters now are chasing the new money of MMA. Is that what it is?
But there's
MMA?
no money in MMA.
Well, wait.
I think it's the other way around.
De La Hoya is chasing Conor McGregor. There is a sense now that this is the new thing, and that
I think it's just he's the guy. Because what sport do they? Wait a minute.
I don't know.
What's this? What do they do when they get in that ring? It's not an octagon. They box. So obviously they're not going MMA for the main event.
The next rule is going to say in odd-numbered rounds you can kick somebody in the face.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
If you can separate the odd from the even. The Cleveland Cavaliers have now won 13 games in a row after beating Sacramento last night. 7 of those 13 straight were road wins. LeBron James led the way last night with 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists. During this streak, LeBron is averaging 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists, which prompted him to say people take him for granted. Wilbon, how much has this streak elevated the Cavs in your estimation? A lot, a little, or not at all?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No, what elevates you is winning.
Well,
they've done that. Won. What elevates you, no. Winning in June, at least winning in May, what elevates you, they've already done. LeBron doesn't need elevation, Holmes. He doesn't need that. LeBron needs to just be healthy and his crew healthy going into June.
Speaking
and
of
then
Holmes,
we'll see.
He's got a new home. And it's in L.A. That's $23 million.
Not in Northeast Ohio, is it?
Yeah. No.
So, no, LeBron doesn't need any of that. This notion that Cleveland needs, you know who needs to prove something? Boston, Houston, Oklahoma City, the Wizards. And they need to prove something. LeBron doesn't need to prove jack.
I'm impressed with the streak because it's a streak of consequence and because LeBron has led the way, which prompted him to say again that he's taken for granted.
Who takes it for granted?
He is taken for granted.
Skip Bayless? Stop listening to Skip Bayless, LeBron.
He's taken for granted in this regard. From the moment he set foot in this league, you could tell that he was on the path to all-time greatness. He has justified everything that everybody said about him.
And then some.
And he performs consistently every night, which reminds you of who?
Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
You bet. Okay.
Yeah.
So now the other thing about the Cleveland Cavaliers that we need to mention, because I guess people aren't smart enough to think of this, this is not the Cleveland Cavaliers you're going to see in the playoffs. They're going to have Isaiah Thomas for one, and LeBron will engineer a trade for one more shooter and a rebounder. And the team that goes into the playoffs for Cleveland will be better than what's out there now.
There are 4 great runs out there right now in entertainment in America. Hamilton, okay? Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, LeBron James, and the Golden State Warriors as an ensemble. Those are the great runs. So to say they're not appreciated, everyone,
Can I ask you a question?
Anyone who says that, shut up.
Hamilton, what about PTI?
Oh, yeah.
What? Thank you. Let's take a break. Coming up is the NFL overprotecting players. We're going to ask Steve Young.
We'll also ask him whether Russell Wilson should think twice about wanting to play until he's 45.
I mean, honestly, are we chopped liver? I mean, we've won multiple.
Are we longest on the network?